Okay. Good afternoon to you all.
Morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning,
Good
Prof.
Good
morning.
morning. Yeah. Good morning. Okay. The internet in my office is not so good. I'm using my own internet. If it's not clear, you let me know so I can switch. Hopefully, it comes back. Okay. So last week, the last session, which is last week, we went in through what is economics, some basic concepts in economics, the branches of the where we have disagreement. We also highlighted where we have disagreement. This morning, I'll quickly finish up that slide, and then we can start a new topic. Okay. So economic models. We will talk about what we refer to as the circular flow. Okay, the circular flow model. What is the circular flow model? Let me minimize this. So economists use models to simplify reality. So a lot of things are going on in the economy, and we use model to simplify the reality and to also help us analyze the consequences of what is going on. So we use model to simplify reality in order to improve our understanding of the world. Okay. And the circular flow model is one of the most basic economic models. What does it focus on? The circular flow model is a simple way to visually show the economic transactions that are taking on that are taking place in the economy between households, between firms, okay, or between workers and firms. What is how the economic transactions that are taking place in the economy. So this is how the circular flow model looks like. So you can take it from any angle. We can take it from the market for factors of production. So you can see the factors of production, capital and labor. People give those factors of production, their labor, their land to firms. So if you take the red arrow that is going to the left side, they give it to firms. Firms use these factors of production as inputs. So firms use these inputs and then they use the input to produce goods and services. Okay. Please kindly mute yourself. Let me see if I can mute everybody. Okay. So factors of production, we households own these factors of production. And then I hope it's recording. Yeah. So households own these factors of production given to firms. Firms use these factors to produce goods and services. And the goods can go back into another company can go into goods that households will then purchase. Okay, so households will then purchase, and then the whole cycle continues. If you take the income part, then you can say that the firms can pay the workers or the factors of production, can pay them wage, rent, all that profits. And that can go back into the household. Household will use that for spending and then spending on goods and service. The firms will receive the revenue and it goes around. Okay. So if you take the blue line is going from the income from the firm to the households. So firms are making the money, but they are paying the workers, right, that they have employed, and they are the household people. Okay, so they're paying wage. If the firm is renting a place, it's paying rent, sharing some profit, and those streams of income will go into the households. Households will spend, and then firms will receive the revenue, produce the goods. So firms and households are in this kind of relationship. Okay, so it's not just firms that are there producing. We also have to give our time and energy for the production as workers, and we are paid salary. When we are paid salaries, we also spend on this sometimes or even on the same good that we are producing. Okay, so this is the circular flow model. Let me put it in context. Everything I've said. Firms hire and use factors of production from households for use in the production process. So firms will hire and use factors of production. Firms then produce and sell the goods and service to households. So the firms will produce, they will use our time and efforts and energy to produce, but then after that they will sell back the goods and service to households again. And households are the owners of the factors of production. Okay. So households, they own the labor, land. Okay. So they sell these factors of production to firms in return for wages and rent. With this income, they buy and consume goods and services produced by firms. So there's this whole cycle going on. Market for factors of production, households supply factors of production, which I said, firms buy the factors of production. So this relationship goes on in the market. The factors of production typically are land, labor, and capital. So households own the land, they own the labor, they have the labor, and they have capital. It goes into production. Whatever profit the firm makes pays for the rent of the land and pays the workers and the rental cost of capital. So market for goods and service, firms sell the goods and services. So this is just to explain everything that I've said about the circular flow, okay? Firms sell the goods and services, households buy the goods and services. So supply side, firms supply the demand side of the goods and service, households will demand the goods and services. Okay. So it's a very simple model that shows the flow from households to firms and back from firms to households. Okay, so very simple. The explanation is explanations are all on the slides for you. I think the very last concept on this slide is the production possibility frontier. Okay, in simple terms, we call it the PPF. What is the production possibility frontier? The production possibility frontier is another basic model used in economics. Okay, it's a graph showing the various combinations of output that the economy can possibly produce given the resources the economy has. Okay, so basically, what you ask yourself, if the economy, what resources do we have, and what can we possibly produce? If the economy was producing cars, how many units of cars can we possibly produce? If we are producing sachet water with the resources we have, how many can we possibly produce? So it's the possibility frontier. What is possible in this country? Okay. So you can already think that some countries that are very efficient and have a lot of resources, they will have a bigger frontier than countries with less resources. Okay. So the PPF is a graph showing the various combinations of output that the economy can possibly produce given the available resources. In two-dimensional graph, the PPF shows the combination of two goods that an economy can produce with its available resources. If we assume that the economy is producing just two goods, as the example I gave about water and cars, okay? If that's what you're assuming, then you're asking yourself, what would be the maximum the country can produce of one if we are using the all our resources, okay? So that is the possibility frontier. This is an example of how the PPF looks like, okay? So a country can produce, what can it possibly produce? Two items, quantity of computers, so computers, and cars, okay? If the country uses all the resources the country has to produce cars, the country can produce 1,000 units of cars. So the maximum they can produce with all the resources is 1,000. However, if they use all the money to produce computers, then the maximum unit they can produce is 3,000. Okay. If you connect these two points, that will give you the frontier. So the economy has to operate on the frontier, what is possible. Okay. And operating on the frontier means that you are very efficient. Okay. It's very difficult to operate beyond your possibility. Okay. So it's very difficult to operate beyond your possibility. Let me see. Okay, can you hear? Can some people hear me? Or is just one person?
Yes, we can hear you, Doc.
Okay, my good friend. Oh, Charlotte, your internet probably is the issue. Okay. All right. So you can, this is your possibility frontier. You have to operate on your frontier, meaning that you are very efficient. You should be efficient to operate on your frontier. You cannot go beyond your possibility. Okay. So D is not possible unless your resources actually change, okay, or expand to get to D. Given your current resources, this is your boundary. Point B is considered inefficient, meaning that your frontier is this point. This is the highest you can produce. If you underproduce at point B, that means that the economy is producing is at an inefficient point. Okay. Okay. So in any way, in any case, you want to approach your possibility frontier as an economy. Okay. It's like we can produce 100 tons of cocoa, which is if we are very efficient. If you're very efficient, then we'll be on our cocoa frontier here, possibility frontier. But if you are producing 20,000, then we are underproducing, we are inefficient. Okay. Yeah, we are inefficient in our production. So how the PPF illustrates efficiency is what I've just explained, but the, the text is also on the slide for you. Points that are not on the boundary of the PPF but inside the curve, like B, denote inefficient use of resources. Assuming that all the economy's resources are being used, so you are using all the economy's resources but you are underproducing, you are point B, then it's inefficient. Point B, we can increase the quantity produced of one or both without decreasing the quantity of the other. So at point B, all we have to do is put in some measures to induce efficiency. And then you can produce more cars and also more computers because you are still not at your potential. Okay. Maybe corruption or anything, some factors. So you can't reach your potential of 3,000. Then we can put in some policies that will push the economy to its potential. Okay. Points, yes. Okay, so I made that point. Points on the boundary of the PPF denote efficient use of resources. And I've said that if you're on your PPF, then you are efficiently using your resources. The PPF trade-offs and opportunity costs. There is trade-off when moving along the PPF. Okay, so you can go back to the PPF. This is the PPF. If you're on the PPF at point A, to go to point C, point A, you are producing 2,000 cars and 2,000 computers and 700 cars. Okay. If you decide that you want to increase your production of computers to 2,200, because of resource constraints, you have to reduce the number of cars you can produce. Okay. So you have to reduce the number of cars from 700 to 600. If you further move towards more computers, then you have to give up the production of the other one. Okay, because of resource constraints. So that is a tool that helps you to also analyze economic decision making. So for point two, we can increase the quantity produced of one or both goods without decreasing the quantity of the other. But if you're on the frontier, yeah, I said that. There's trade-off when moving along the PPF. When on the boundary of the PPF, the only way to increase the production of one good is to decrease the production of the other. Okay, so that is the situation on the PPF. The only way to increase one is to decrease the other. So moving down the PPF is also illustrate the opportunity cost. Okay, so if we are getting more of cars, they are getting more of computers or producing more of computers, then you are foregoing the income that you would have earned from cars. Okay, you are foregoing that income. So if a country decides that let me produce cocoa instead of cars, then we are foregoing the income that we would have earned from cars. Okay. So moving from point C to point A shows the opportunity cost of producing additional units of cars is 200 computers. Okay. So if you move here, if you reduce the cars by 100, then you are getting 200 computers. Okay. The shape of the PPF indicates the nature of the opportunity cost. Our example, increasing opportunity cost. So it will become very difficult to give up the production of cars as you move along the PPF, because you can see that after 200, if you want to move to another point, say 300, you need to give up more, and then you have to give up more. It will get to a point you can not increase computers so much. Okay, you get to a very diminishing returns will set in. Okay. So the shape of the PPA indicate that opportunity cost. Okay. An increase in the level of technology will shift the PPF. Okay. So this is the possibility. I have to always go back. This is the possibility for you. If for some reason you have better technology for producing computers and cars, your possibility frontier as a country will shift outward, up. Okay. If you have improved technologies. If you have improved technologies for producing computers but not for cars, then it's going to tilt to computers. So here the car side will be pivoted, and then it will tilt that way. So you have a higher ability to produce computers than cars. But if the technology is not product specific, is good for both products, then it will shift the PPF outward. Okay, shift it outward. The outward shift will be parallel if the increase in technology is not product specific. If it's not product specific, then it will shift your possibility to the right. It will increase your possibility. Okay, shift it to the right. If it is product specific, then the outward shift will be tilted if the increase is in level of technology is product specific. If it's product specific, then the frontier will tilt towards that product. Okay, so tilt towards that product. So that explains the PPF is what is possible given your resources. Okay, even at the household level, what is possible given your resources? What can you produce if you have two options? If you spend all your money in producing sachet water, how many can you produce? And if you spend all your money producing bottle, how many can you produce? Okay, if you produce more of one, you have to forgo another. Okay. However, if you have improved technology from China or somewhere, you can produce more, and the technology is for sachet water, then you produce more of sachet water. If the technology is for bottle, you produce more bottle. But if the technology is for just water, then you can produce more of both. Okay. So that is all that the PPF talks about. Any question before I switch? Okay. So today I'll introduce some very important concepts in economics or business economics: demand, supply, and market analysis or market equilibrium. Okay. I've done the summary. I've gone through the last slide, so I'll go straight into the demand. The summaries are on the slides for you. All right. Why should managers study demand and supply and demand? Why should managers study supply and demand? Any inputs? Anybody? You can raise your hand and I'll call you. Why should managers study demand and supply? This is graduate level. I don't have to talk for 3 hours, 2 hours. Please go ahead, Frank. Mr. Franco Usuba. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doc, please, the managers should study supply and demand because when they do that, it really helps in the smooth allocation of resources, thereby helping in the profitability of the company or the firm.
Okay. So resource allocation. If you know your supply and demand, it improves resource allocation. Okay. Bismarck. Bismarck, please go ahead. I'll take my third after that.
Managers are supposed to learn or supposed to know supply and demand in order to allocate the scarce
In order
in order
to,
to
your line went off. In order to,
in order to allocate the scarce resources they have,
okay.
increase productivity.
Okay. So the scarce resources still on resource allocation. We'll take Matilda on resource allocation.
Okay, please, managers study demand and supply to be able to understand consumer behavior and the market situation.
So the first two contributions were on the supply side, allocation to be more efficient in production. After producing, you need to understand the market dynamics. Who is buying? What characteristics? Yes, you will take patience. So patience, please go ahead.
Yeah, so that managers will know which product to focus more and which product needs more attention and marketing.
Exactly. So you know the changes in the demand. Maybe today people like, I don't know, KFC or something. But as time goes on, people become a bit more conscious about the oil and other things, and then they are moving. So you need to understand the changing demand and to know even what products you should sell. In some places, the McDonald's and
Yeah.
Co, they have to put a label indicating the fat and other things that are in their product. So you need to know what the consumers actually want. I will take there are few hands. Okay, let's move on. I'll come. Please keep your hands. I'll come back to you. Let me just touch on a few things and then we come back. Managers need to understand supply and demand to develop their own competitive strategies, okay, and to respond to the actions of their competitors also. Okay. So what is your strategy in the market? How are you going to position yourself? What type of product are you going to produce for the consumers? And how can you respond to the actions of other firms? Okay. Because other firms are trying to also get the market. So they want the demand for themselves. So what strategy will you put in place to respond to the needs of the consumer? Don't always think that you are the only firm in the market. You may not be the only firm in the market. And therefore, the demand that is in the market is not a demand for your product alone. It's a demand for the entire market. And so you need to put in your strategies to get that market. Okay. You may be working in the banking sector. There are lots of banks. Why should I open a bank account with your bank? What is the demand conditions? What do people want from banks? What are the characteristics they are looking for? Okay, so that you can supply these things. Okay, managers need to understand how the structure of the market that their firm operates in impacts supply and demand. If you are operating in a monopoly market, your behavior in that market will be different. Okay, so compared to if you are operating a very competitive market, if you are the only firm in the market, you can increase price any day, nobody will complain. They'll complain, but they'll still buy, right? But if you have a lot of other firms, you cannot even increase the price by 1%. If you do, people will just move, especially if the product is homogeneous. Okay, so managers need to understand you are an insurance company, you are a bank. How different? What is the nature of that market? Are there a lot of firms that customers can easily move to? That should influence how you behave. Okay, so managers need to understand how the structure of the market that their firm operates in impacts supply and demand. Managers also need to understand how public policy will impact supply and demand. Okay, government policies can also change demand. Government policies on wages, salary, taxes, all these things, subsidies, they can all increase, change the supply and demand. Okay, government can also impose some tariffs on suppliers or give subsidies to firms that will change the supply in the market. Okay. So you need to understand. You need to understand that if you are producing a product with a lot of competitors and they flood the market with so much of the product, the price will fall. You need to understand that. Okay. So these are some of the highlights of the demand and supply analysis. Anybody and anything that I've missed that somebody wants to add? Let me check the hand. Yes, we take Abdul. Abdul and Anna, yeah.
Oh, Doc, I was thinking of the impact of changes. It helps determine the impact of changes in the market.
Yeah. So definitely the demand final outcome will help you know, okay, if there's a change in the market, how would that impact the demand for the product? And the change can be a change in price, change in quantity, change in quality, change in advertising. Any decision that you take can change the market, the demand. Okay. Nanaya, do you want to add something before I move to the analysis? If not, then I move straight to the analysis. Okay. So market analysis, it means that managers should be able to analyze the market, okay? Analyze the demand conditions, analyze if something is changing on the supply side. These are very important things. So we will take the first one as the demand analysis, okay? What is demand? In economics, we say individual demand. So we have individual demand and then we have market demand, okay? Individual demand is your individual as a person, your demand for milk or a product, your demand for sachet water, your demand for cocoa, your demand for soap is your individual demand. Okay. If we add your demand for soap to my demand for soap, to the next person, the economy, everybody's demand for soap in the country, it gives us the market demand. Okay. So it's individual demand that adds up to give us market demand. Okay. So individual demand is a schedule that shows the quantity of a commodity the consumer is willing but also able to buy at various prices in a defined period. Okay, so how are you able to, how much are you willing to buy if the sachet water is 20 pesos? And it's not just willing to buy, but able, coming from your purchasing power, okay, to buy. So quantities and price at various prices. The key thing you should keep in mind is quantities. How many quantities are you able to buy? And at different prices, because there may be a certain price. If it happens, that price happens in the market, you will not buy. Okay, so at different prices. Okay, maybe I don't know how much Ideal milk costs right now, or Carnation milk costs. But if Carnation milk costs, I don't know, somebody can tell me. It's an interactive class. Does somebody know? Ideal and Carnation. Yes, go ahead.
Ideal milk is
Bismarck, go ahead.
please. Ideal milk is 5 cedis and Carnation is 4 cedis.
Okay, Carnation is 4 cedis. So in your we all have the quantities that we are willing and also able to buy, right? If I go to the shop, I didn't know that Ideal milk price has increased. But if I go to the shop and the price is now 10 cedis a 10, I will react, right? I'll probably not buy the same quantities that I used to buy. Or you say that Gary without milk is good for you, right? You make an argument and then move on, okay? So you go there and say that the product does not exist. They don't have it on the shelf. It's just that the price has doubled, okay? So it's the quantities of the commodity the consumer is willing and able to buy at different prices, okay, in a given period. So that is the individual demand. The market demand, I already explained that. The market demand, on the other hand, shows the quantities of commodities that all consumers in the market are willing and able to purchase at various prices over a given period of time. So market demand is for the entire market. Individual is your own demand or somebody's own demand, okay? So you can already say that the market demand is a summation, a horizontal summation of individual demand curves, okay? i.e., the market demand is found by adding up all the quantities demanded by all individual consumers in the market. Okay. So your demand plus my demand, individual demands will give the market demand. Okay, demand can be represented in the form of a table. So demand, you can represent a demand in the form of a table, a graph. You can also represent it as a graph or as an equation or a function. Okay, so in three ways: table, graph, or curve, or a function, mathematical function. This is the tabular representation of demand. Okay, so like the ideal milk example I gave, if ideal milk is price is 10 Ghana cedi, I will buy 0. If it's 9, I'll buy 5. If it's 8, I'll buy 10. If it's 7, I'll buy 15. Okay, so you can already see a pattern that for demand, for the average normal good, for demand, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. Okay, so we'll say that the demand for a good in terms of price is inversely related. The higher the price, the lower the quantity that you demand. This you should keep. Okay, if the price of a good is very high, you will buy less. If there's all things being equal, you buy less. So this is demand presented as a schedule. Okay. You can also represent it as a curve. Okay. Representing it as a curve, you can even take this one and plot. Okay, so you can plot the demand curve. Let me see if I can use a whiteboard. Okay, so we started a class at 11:30. When it's 1:30, I'll take a break and for 10 minutes so that I can save the video to share. The last one was too big, I couldn't share. Okay, so let's use this whiteboard to show the demand. So you can draw the demand curve. Okay, so you can draw the demand curve. Oops. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I just do want this today. Okay, so you can draw the demand curve. You can ask yourself the prices that I gave. If the price is 10, so here will be price and quantity. So you can put the price here. So here will be price. And try to do it well. Price, and then you can have quantity. Okay, quantity will be here. If the price was 10, then I'll buy quantity 0. So that will be at this point. Okay. That will be, let me use circle. So that will be somewhere here. I'm supposed to put it on a circle. So if it's 10 Ghana cedis at price 10, I can put a text around here. At price 10, at price 10, I'll buy 0. At price 9, at price 9, do you guys remember how many I'll buy at price 9? Somebody?
5.
5. Okay. So at 10, I'll buy 5. Can pick up a circle. So if it's 9, I'll buy 5. Let's say here's 5. At 7, how many will I buy?
15.
At 7?
15.
15. So at 7, I'll buy 15. And the last one, I've forgotten.
8.
8. So at price 8, okay.
You buy 10.
I'll buy 10. So this represents the demand curve. So here can be 5. Trying to represent this 5. Oh, yeah. So I've forgotten. Something like this.
10,
It's 10
10, 15.
and 15.
15.
Old age. Okay. So you can connect these dots and they will give you the demand curve. Okay. The center of these dots. Give you the demand curve. So this shows the negative relationship between price and quantity. There is a price, we all have a price for a good, that if the price is that price, you buy zero. Okay, I don't know about you guys. I believe that if milk price 20 Ghana cedis a 10, you may think that maybe something else is a substitute. Okay, so this is the demand, the graphical representation of demand. I hope it's clear. So that is what we have here. So this is an example. This is a graphical representation of the relationship between price of a good or service and the quantity demanded by consumers in a given year. So there is an inverse relationship. The higher the price from 3 to 4, the lower the quantity. From 4 to 5, the lower the quantity. Okay. All right. Market demand, however, as we said, the market demand is the combination of all the individual demand curves. So the market demand will be that you see that. Let me go back to my graph. It's better. I can illustrate it better there. So this is my demand. For me, at price 5, I'm buying 0. At price 10, I'm buying 0. But somebody at price 10 will still buy positive amounts. Okay. So at price 10, somebody's demand curve will still be somewhere here. Okay. Somebody's demand is like this. So at price 10, if you map it to the demand, he will still buy 5 units. Okay. Because we are all not the same. Okay. At 10, I will be out of the market. I'll be buying 0, but somebody will still be buying. Even another person will even buy more. At price 10, they will still be buying. Somebody will even buy more at price 10. Okay. So we have different demand curves. And when you combine all that, so I will buy 0 at 10. Somebody will buy 5 at 10. Another person will buy 10 units at 10. When you add that up, that will give you the market demand for the product at price 10. So at price 10, how many units are bought by the economy, by the market at price 10? Let me see. Okay. So that is the movement along the demand curve causes changes by changes in their own price. Okay. So if there are changes in the price of the good, it will change the quantities that are bought. So if you move from price P, lower price to higher price, quantity will fall. Okay. And my example, there's P star here, 10 that I'll buy less. Okay. All right. The law of demand. The law of demand refers to an empirical and logical relationship between the quantity demanded of a product and its price. And the law simply states that all things being equal, ceteris paribus, all things being equal, meaning that your income constant, your taste and preference hasn't changed. Your preference for milk is the same, it hasn't changed. What will happen to your demand for the product if the price of the product changes? Okay, so the higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity demanded of the commodity. All things being equal, your income is the same, equal, constant. Your taste is the same. Okay, how much will you buy if the price changes? And we are saying that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. So that is the simple law of demand. So all things being equal, ceteris paribus is an important assumption that we will return to later. Okay, the law of demand states that demand curves are downward sloping. You can see that the demand curve is downward sloping, slopes down. Okay. Why does the law of demand hold? Why is it that the higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity people buy? You are the CEO of your company, you are a manager explaining to the owner or another boss that we shouldn't increase price. Why is it that the higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity that will be bought? You can raise up your hand and I'll call you. Yes, let me take Sadiq Ahmed. Sadiq.
Okay, sir, it's because high price commodities are linked to stuff that you don't need much, stuff that you don't need every day. It's not an everyday commodity. Something you buy once and then it will last for a long time.
Okay.
So if you want your commodity to be something that people buy regularly and you increase your price, it's not a lot of people that can afford it and will not buy that much. So there are few people that will buy it.
Okay.
So if, for example, the car Rolls Royce is an expensive car, it's not everybody, and it's not, they don't produce that much in a year. They can produce like 4 or 5. So in such a market, it's just it's something you buy once and then that's it.
Okay. All right. So that is from. Let's take another person, Stephen AJ. Why does the law of demand hold? Yes.
I think the law of demand pertains to the downward shift. Some people demand less because the increase in price will automatically will be an increase in the cost of production, and therefore it will affect people's purchasing activity. The people might opt for alternative products.
Okay, so you have brought a new dimension. People will opt for alternatives. You take Bismarck. Take Bismarck. I think there are more hands.
Please, if the price increases, the purchasing power of individual decreases.
The purchasing power of consumers will decrease. Yes.
Tends to reduce the quantity, and automatically the quantity is supposed to buy reduces because the purchasing power has reduces.
So you're also hinting on the purchasing power. Okay, we'll take Siba, Melissa, and then Siba.
Yeah, Doc.
Come again. Hello.
Hello.
Come again.
Taking a look at the population and the number of people who consume goods.
Yes.
And a chunk of them are in the average category. Most of the people who buy are in the average category. And so when price is high, they can't buy. And a few people are rich in the society. So therefore, the rich are not as many as the average people who consume a lot of goods.
Yeah, but even for the average people who consume a lot of goods, even for those average goods, if the price increases, quantity demanded will still fall.
Yes. That is why, because of their income is not really high. And so when price increases, they won't be able to meet up with the price.
So it's still on the purchasing power. The purchasing power. So because you are holding their income fixed, your income hasn't changed.
Yeah.
If the price changes, then it's still your purchasing power. Your purchasing power just falls, so you can't buy as many as you want. Okay. Leonie, we take Leonie, and then for the Lydia, I'll come back to you later. Leonie.
Okay, sir. With that, we will look at the substitute goods.
Exactly.
And the purchasing power, that is the income of the person as well. So when the person can get the same product to satisfy the same need, and the price is down, the person will just go for that.
So if you are the CEO and you are deciding to increase your price, the price of your competitor's product hasn't changed. So if you increase your price, all of a sudden your price becomes relatively more expensive. Your product becomes relatively more expensive compared to the other ones. So people will just move to the other product. Okay.
Sure.
So keep those in mind. The purchasing power is important, but your product just relatively becomes very expensive. All right. So the law of demand, we've talked about why do we buy less of a good at a higher price? And that is, there are two key explanations for the law of demand. Substitution effects, which we just mentioned. When the price of a good falls, or it can also rise. If a price of your good, if you reduce the price of your good therefore becomes cheaper than other products in the market. And therefore people will come to your product, will come and buy from you. And that is why people will try to reduce their price. Okay, so that their good becomes relatively cheaper in the market. Okay. And the second reason is the income effect that you guys mentioned, the purchasing power. When the price of a good falls, consumers' raw income or purchasing power will rise. The opposite is true. Okay. If the price of a good increases, consumers' purchasing power will fall. Okay, so that will affect your demand. So these are two important reasons why a change in price, the law of demand will hold. If you increase price, people buy less. And if you decrease price too, people buy more. Okay, the reverse is also true. Okay, determinants of demand. What drives people to buy? Okay, the first one we've analyzed so far is price. Okay, price is not the only factor that affects demand. Okay, how much of a good we buy. What are some of the other factors? Anybody? Let me see if there's a hand. Factors that will impact demand. Yes, Lydia was there. Lydia, please go ahead, and I'll come to the other people who haven't spoken. Lydia.
I think taste.
Taste
to account for that.
So give me an example.
Taste. Yes, please.
Give me an example.
For instance, someone would prefer ideal milk to carnation milk. So even if carnation milk, ideal milk is expensive, the person will go for ideal milk, though the carnation milk is less expensive.
Exactly. So taste and preferences can impact demand, even though the price is high. Any other factor? Let me see. There are a lot of hands today. Somebody who hasn't spoken that I have not heard from. Atiemo Edem. Yeah. And then Stephen J will come after that.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead. Okay, Stephen. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Individual's income. Yeah.
Hello. So your income.
Okay, when an individual's income increases, the demands for a particular good also increases.
Exactly.
Yeah, but when it decreases, it also determines how the individual may demand for such product.
Okay, so I think we all understand. Let me take one person I've not heard from, Henry Planch. Any other factor?
The consumer market, somewhere like East Legon would prefer bottled water.
The location.
Whereas to buy, the location of the consumer.
Okay. All right. Let me go through those things. Those who have your hands, I'll call off you today. Okay, consumers' income, we've talked about it. Somebody mentioned the income. If your income increases, you buy more. But there is a caveat here. It depends on the nature of the product. Okay. So for normal goods, we buy more when our income increases. Okay. When our income increases, we buy more. For inferior goods, we buy less when our income increases. Okay. We buy less. What is an example of an inferior good? An inferior good. Anybody? Randy Opariado, do you have an idea?
Yes, sir. Gary.
Hey, yes, I mentioned it somebody, it nearly lynched me. Somebody said, no, the Gary is not inferior.
It's not inferior. Gary is not an inferior.
You see?
It's an inferior good.
Gary
no, it's not.
It's an inferior good.
The fact that the price is low doesn't mean it is.
Do you think Dangote is Gary?
Whoever thinks Gary is inferior, it doesn't have an examined life.
You see, I told you that it nearly links me somewhere. give me not they.
We all move from that. So Gary is
yeah, now please go ahead.
So I was going to talk about the quality of the product.
The quality of the product can make it inferior, right? Yeah. So if there is a product,
you were asking that.
I'm listening.
Okay, you.
Please go ahead.
I'm trying to answer what determines our demands for goods.
Oh, okay. The quality of the product. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.
All right. So we have the inferior goods. We buy less when income increases. Any examples of inferior goods apart from Gary? Anybody?
We have 2 Jimmy or false cantamanto.
Second-hand clothing.
When the person's income increases, definitely he or she would prefer buying from a shop or a brand new outfit. And when it comes to food, to Jimmy, when people's income increases, they stop taking in to Jimmy.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Are you sure?
Like Jimmy, it's a situational.
It's to Jimmy someone's delicacy.
You see.
Even besides that, there are certain foods that you need to prepare. That's what it demands for.
You see. So now I think the people's preferences are changing. I was told that the second-hand clothes, people no longer go to the cantamanto. The cantamanto comes to them when their income increases. So people may still consume it. My undergraduate students were explaining the whole market to me, that even in the halls, people come from the Accra Center and sell to them. They don't go there again. So things have changed. So basically, by the understanding is what I need, that you need to ask yourself the product that you are going to produce, is it a normal good? Is it an inferior good? If it's an inferior good, as the average income of the people increases in the country, you are going to lose some market. And the second-hand clothing is a good example, or second-hand mattresses and those second-hand fridges and things. They are very good examples of inferior goods that as your income increases, probably want to buy a new fridge or a new stove. Salt, somebody says salt. I don't know how salt is an inferior good. I don't think the salt one is related to your income per se, right? It's more related to health and preferences, taste and preferences changing. Okay, sugar and all those, yeah, taste and preferences. Okay, let me see. I'll come back to those, the hands that are up. All right, so price of consumers' income, we've talked about it. Price of related products, we've talked about it. What happens to your substitute? If there is a complement or there's a substitute, if the price of that changes, it will also affect the demand for your product, okay? So substitute, we buy less of a good if the price of its substitutes falls, okay? If there's a substitute, if Kaneshi price is falling, then right now you said it's 4.5, right? 4 cedis for Carnation, 5 for Ideal Milk. But if the price gets to say 2 cedis for Carnation, people will say, milk is milk, right? Right now, whatever I get, milk is milk, because it's now 2 and buy the Carnation. So we buy less of a good if the price of its substitute falls. Okay. This example, I know it's the textbooks, but I don't believe we buy less fish if meat becomes cheaper. Do you guys think so? It's people's preferences also.
No. It's taste and preference.
It's taste and preference. Okay.
Yeah.
Compliments.
But I believe we can look at the Coke and Pepsi issue.
Coke and Pepsi,
Coke and
yes,
Pepsi.
are substitutes.
Yes.
Yeah. Coke and Pepsi are substitutes. So,
Doc, Parazone and Powerzone.
Parazone and what?
Powerzone.
And Powerzone.
There's Powerzone.
Yeah, there's Powerzone. That's an imitated version of Parazone.
So it's written on it.
Yes.
Yes, Powerzone.
I don't think it's an imitated version. It's their own product too.
It's their own
it's
product.
inferior, like compared to the Parazone itself.
I see.
Powerzone is stronger. As in,
Hey, Powerzone is stronger than
No.
Parazone.
Parazone is the original one. That was the very first one that was created.
I see. Okay. Somebody say
Okay, let's
that who met Mattis or something. I don't know how that is.
That woman is an inferior car.
It's not an inferior car, please.
It is.
It's not.
Camel.
If it was, we would all be driving that.
People are using it as their private cars, and others are using motorbikes and bicycles. Somebody is using that.
Hello. I'm not sure low budget products should be confused with inferior products, please.
As
you
your
have low
income
budget,
increases,
and we have inferior.
Yeah. So the key point here that you need to keep in mind is if you are going into any business, you should know the characteristic of that product. Okay, is it a substitute? Is there a substitute to that product? Is there a complement? Okay, so we buy more if it's a complement. We buy more of a good if the price of its complement falls. The opposite is also true. If the price of its complement rises, you buy less of the good. Okay. And then last week, I think people were talking about some complements. I remember touchlight and battery and all that. Okay. So that is complement. And we use the fish and kinky example. Determinants of demand. The other determinant apart from what we have just talked about, price of related goods and then consumers' income, is the size of the market. Okay. The size of the market. Oops. If the potential population of consumers increases, you buy, demand will rise. Okay. If people who are buying, I don't know, demand for diapers will be higher if we have more children, right? Demand for most commodities are also higher in China than Ghana. If you have a bigger population like Nigeria, if you are selling an item in Nigeria, the demand for that product will be higher than the demand for the product in Ghana. Okay. On average, because they have a bigger population than us. Okay, so if the population is expanding, if the youth are becoming more in the country and you're selling a product that the youth prefer, then demand will rise. If the population is aging and you are selling young children's clothing, that will be a problem. Okay, so these are some of the factors that will impact the demand. Somebody is asking, is Gary and beans complements? For me, they are different products, but for some people, they are complements. I don't take Gary, so it will not be a complement for me. Okay, price expectations. It's not because it's inferior. It's just because I've not taken Gary for a long time. Okay. Price expectations, we buy more of a commodity if we expect its price to increase in the future. Okay, I know people have more comments on that. Okay, so price expectation, if you expect the price of fuel, if we are expecting that by 5 p.m. today, the price of fuel will double, what do you think will happen? Okay, people will just shut down their computers and just go and fill up and look for extra gallons and all that. Okay, so it's expectation. What you do when you hear rumor that petrol price will increase, you demand more now and try to save up. Okay, so expectation is very important in economics. The other determinants are taste and preferences. Advertising can change your demand. Have you had an advert so many times that you just decided to try the product? Any experience?
Yes, that's don't hear names or she wasn't.
This way chocolate drink.
This way, yes, this way. Outing.
Yes.
You just tried it.
And I don't go bitters.
Yes.
Oh.
This way.
Indomie.
Indomie too. You had adverts so many times that what is
and
called?
I tasted it and it was really something.
It was good.
Gino products.
No.
Yeah,
Indomie doesn't taste good. No, it didn't taste good.
Wow.
Somebody say wow.
It comes for a recipe.
Maybe you didn't prepare it well.
Indomie is good though. You didn't prepare it well.
I just didn't like the way it tasted. It tasted some way. I just didn't like it.
I agree with you, Charlotte.
Maybe you have COVID.
Me too. I didn't know what the whole noise was about.
Maybe we didn't prepare it.
There's a way of preparing it. I see. Okay. So you can think of these things. You hear the advert so many times that you are tempted to just try. What at all is this product? And then if you try, so advertising can change your demand for a product. Okay. Taxes can also change your demand for a product. If the product is, there's a lot of taxes on a product, you may want to demand less. Okay. News, yeah, that's a good one. Expectation, news of a possible lockdown. News of a possible lockdown is a very good one. Okay. So if we know right now, as we sit here, people are expecting a lockdown. People are expecting a lockdown in the next few days or weeks. The COVID numbers are going up. So if people expect that, the expectation will kick in, they will start buying things and all that. Okay. Demand for nose mask. Okay. Expectation. Okay. You are expecting schools to be reopened and therefore you buy more. Okay. And you can see the market conditions already. As you are demanding more, the price is rising. Okay. All right. So that summarizes the key factors that impact the demand for a product. Okay. Economics, we make distinction between these two concepts, and I will indulge you to just try and follow. We differentiate between change in demand and change in quantity demanded. Okay. So change in demand is different from change in quantity demanded. A change in demand refers to a shift of your demand curve to the left or to the right. Okay. If we say your demand has changed, it means that the curve that I drew has moved either to the left or to the right. I think it's still on the whiteboard. Go to the whiteboard. So a movement from the original line to the right is a change in demand. Okay. A movement to the right is a change in demand. A movement to the left also is a change in demand. So change in demand is a move. The curve itself has moved. A change in demand. We say that the change in demand is driven by the factors, all the other factors that we mentioned. Okay, it's shift, all the other factors we mentioned, the size of the market, a change in demand is caused by the other determinants of demand except the price. So a change in demand is not caused by a price. The change in demand is caused by all the other factors, market size, expectation, income. All these things can shift the demand. Okay. So if your income increases, the demand curve will shift to the right. Let me go and pick it. Demand curve will shift to the right. Demand curve will shift to the right if your income increases. If your income decreases, your demand will shift to the left. Okay, it's very important. Oh yeah, thank you. All right, it's 12:40. So let's get back at let's take 10 minutes break and then get back at 12:50. Let me save this video. Thanks for the reminder. Okay. So we are coming back in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Some of us are changing over. Light out.